I'll be quick and dash in and dash out.
A lot of storms today.
Where the magic happens.
I know, right? It's a small crowd tonight. It's more intimate. I think I need a microphone on the floor. Bob Brussick's running camera for us tonight. Hi, Bob. Welcome.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
The best hobby in the world,
Yes, it
with
is.
the best people in it. And I'm so glad that
you
I've
forgot
got
the
all
rock
you
and
guys to
roll.
work with.
Rock
It's
and roll,
fun.
that's right. Rock and roll.
Rock and roll, George. And I'll put on my headphones so I can hear what's going on.
There.
All right, Bob Russick, go ahead and give us a countdown, and let's have some fun tonight.
3, 2, 1.
The What's Neat This Week video podcast is supported by enthusiastic model railroaders just like you.
These are anyway.
Further support is provided by Microengineering, keeping you on track with quality products for 55 years. Check out their website at www.microengineering.com. Order from your local dealer or order direct by calling 1-800-462-6975.
Additional support is provided by SoundTraxx, leaders in the model railroad sound and technology for over 30 years. For more information, visit SoundTraxx.com and be sure to enter the code FIREBOX at checkout on your order of $50 or more for a special surprise from SoundTraxx.
Further support is provided by the NCE Corporation, the power of DCC. Visit their website at ncedcc.com. And thank you for supporting the What's Neat This Week podcast.
This is the What's Neat This Week, show number 162 for July 10th, 2021. I'm your host, Ken Patterson, the host of the What's Neat show at Model Railroad Hobbyist Magazine. And we're coming to you from the beautiful bluff of the Mississippi River in St. Louis, Missouri. And boy, it's been some tumultuous weather. Is that the right word?
I think so.
That's a pretty good description.
We've got a lot of neat stuff to talk about tonight. First, I'm going to start out with, I've got Steve Mantilla sitting with me tonight. Hi, Steve.
Hello, how are you?
I'm absolutely awesome. I sure enjoyed going to your train show that you had.
Thank you very much for coming. We've got a couple more plans, so
Good.
we're ready to go.
I'm so glad normal is
Nor-
becoming the common
Yes.
word in our vocabulary once again. I've got Mike Budde with us tonight. Hey, Mike.
Hey, everybody.
Mike's got some awesome models to show tonight as normal. We've also got out in Durango, Colorado, George Bogatiuk. Hello, George.
Howdy,
Ow.
guys. Happy weekend.
We love always seeing your layout in the background. That's the ideal size layout that you've got. Not too much work, just the right amount of territory to switch, right?
Yep. And I'm actually shooting from a different location this time because usually I shoot from the other end of the industrial area, but today I'm shooting in front of the yard. I figured be a nice change of scenery.
Right.
Wow.
Literally. Yes.
Thank you.
Coming off of last week's show, that was a short show and it was relatively easy to produce and edit. That's why it probably came out so quickly. But there was still, as always, there's always seems to be a lot of great information to talk about. And last week we talked about some of the past What's Neat videos that I have produced in the past and the subject matter that's been in them. And tonight I thought I would do the same thing. How do you clean your track is a question. Mike, how do you clean your track when you want to get it clean?
I use a Bright Boy, I guess, and maybe a rag with some Goo Gone or something if I'm real careful, but you can't get that on the ties because it'll dissolve them. So
Is that right?
I made a little track cleaning car, a gondola with a piece of masonite suspended underneath with a weight on it, and I run that, pretty much all the time in front of my train, except when I'm taking pictures.
George, what's your opinion on cleaning track? How do you go about it?
Well, I've got the traditional Bright Boy actually just sitting right here on the shelf. But to kind of illustrate Mike Budde's points, what he talked about, here's the car with the masonite pad on the bottom of it.
Mm-hmm.
So there's just some little weight on here to make sure it rides on the rails itself. And then to complement this, I have one of those Tony's Train Exchange CMX cleaning cars.
Oh,
And
that's
here,
nice.
what you do is you just put a little bit of paint thinner, turpentine in here, and it just slowly drips onto the pad. It's slow and it evaporates quickly, so it doesn't really affect the ties. And then you have this knob here to adjust the rate of the liquid dripping onto the rails. But you run this back and forth a few times on the layout, and you get yourself a pretty clean rail after a while.
Mm-hmm.
Now, George, I'm going to go to Steve Mantilla. Steve runs a lot of 3-rail O scale and also on his father's layout, HO scale.
Yes.
Is track cleaning a problem with 3-rail O scale, or does the size alleviate that?
Well, it takes a while that I've got to get the locomotive up and moving, because if I don't do it all the time, it sits there, and of course the dust and the stuff falls in there. So my usual way is just get them powered up and get them to run, maybe give that little push, and then finally, once the Lionel gets going, they run, and you just got to turn down the speed then, because once the tracks get clean, it just seems they really are going. And no matter the age of some of the Lionel, you think that, well, this piece is 50, 60 years old. It's not good. I've put some on there, you give it a clean a little bit, and they'll run better than stuff. You just think the age is going to be a detriment, but no, they just, once they get going, they run like a champ. I like it.
I remember seeing sparks when I was a kid on the O gauge stuff a lot. Does that mean the track is dirty? Or
I've seen it on some of in the older Lionel ones. I've seen it even on the fast track. You put it on there, and you'll see some of the sparks there. And it's as long as the train keeps going and is running, I seem to not have a problem with it. That type of thing.
I just wondered if it still did that. Probably so.
Yes.
Back in the 70s, I used to run Tyco brass track, and that would eventually turn green if you didn't keep it clean. And cleaning the track back then wasn't a big issue on a 4x8 layout for me. Things just seemed to always work. And then I used a tried and true sandpaper.
I did
when
that
we
too.
got the Midwest Valley Modelers layout, keeping the track clean was simple application of Bright Boys, just like what Mike has mentioned and George has mentioned. The Bright Boy, Microengineering sells a line of Bright Boys. They've got a 1-inch by 6-inch that I can remember in my head, and they've got another one that's about 3 inches by 2.5 inches, which I've got probably 7 of those. Another thing about Bright Boys is over a period of time, you may notice that after 5 years, they start to dry out and get hard. And that's when it's actually time to replace them, because they do, in fact, get hard. And I'm going to talk about a little foam shrinkage later on. But when we had the Midwest Valley Modelers layout, once you got the track clean with the Bright Boy, and then a new member would show up with an entirely different train, it would seem like the track would get dirty all over again, because of what's on the wheels would then get on the layout. So that was where we eventually had one of those, and I don't remember what it was called. It was a cast iron track cleaning car with a roller in it. And around that roller, you would put handy wipe material cut into a 1-inch strip. And it was very important for us to actually utilize that. When we set the Midwest Valley Modelers layout up in Valley Forge, Pennsylvania at the Anna National, there's one right there.
Right.
When we set up in Valley Forge at the Anna National, we were working with PBL, Jimmy Booth and Bill out there. And we were demonstrating the foreground sound system when that first came out, and they hired us to take the layout to Valley Forge and show off that sound system, which was the first infrared sound system where you used a TV remote to control your trains. And so I had put aircraft headphone speakers into the fuel tanks of Mikado locomotives. And what we discovered was if you did not keep the track clean in a situation like that, the sound would start to get staticky and break up. And also what we discovered was the magic of the roller track cleaner that George just showed us. When you cleaned your track with that, you would actually put it in the train and let it run around with the train constantly. And no longer did the sound drop out or get all crackly and staticky. So that does work. Now, on the Garden Railroad, I've discovered the best way to clean track is using a drywall sander. It's got a flexible end on it. You can put a very long pole on it and an abrasive pad. And that cleans the track, and then you put something called rail zip on the track. I've heard folks say use transmission fluid also to help keep the continuity active. But rail zip really works in that on the Garden Railroad and on this inside layout. When you put just a few drops of rail zip on it, it works itself all the way around the layout and on all the wheels of the freight cars. Now, in a previous What's Neat video, I built on the idea of the drywall sander. And I took these breaker bars, which is a common, obviously, tool for a shop mechanic, and I put the Microengineering abrasive Bright Boy on it. And what I did was I created a block of wood on the very end of this, where the Bright Boy would attach to the block of wood. I cut out the end square of the block of wood to fit either the 1/2 inch or 3/4 inch breaker bars, and these work really, really well. You can get inside your bridges, you can get inside your engine house with it without doing any damage. You run it around the entire layout, and this really works. I'd love to see somebody manufacture something like this. I'll straight up and tell you I don't have a patent on the head itself, but all you've got to do is build the head and have anybody buy a breaker bar and rock and roll. You've got a tool that's going to last your entire life. And it just pops right off, just like that. I'm probably going to be, if I haven't already shown you, some video clips of the What's Neat video that ran. I'm going to put at the bottom of the screen here what month the What's Neat video ran on how to build this breaker bar track cleaner. I made about 7 or 8 different size models just to experiment. Again, I use 1/4 inch, 1/2 inch, and 3/4 inch breaker bars. The great big breaker bars are honestly almost too heavy. It might be great for O scale, but again, this works its way great through bridges, great through engine houses, great along the main line. It simply works. And so that's what I wanted to talk about on track cleaning tonight. Now, in readers' comments, the What's Neat that's running right now for June is my home layout video. You guys have all seen that. I don't know what it's up to now, but last week it was at 31,000 views, and it just keeps growing. I'm glad people are excited and interested in seeing the 14 years of changes that took place down here on that layout. But somebody asked in readers' comments, how do I hold my modules together? I remember, in fact, I emailed him. It was an email, and I sent him back a response. My modules on this layout are not connected together. On the Midwest Valley Modelers layout, we use bolts and wing nuts, and we also use C-clamps for a period of time, and that works really good. But I simply let the modules sit in place, and gravity holds them together. They don't really slide around. I don't know why. People don't bump them. They're against the wall, so there's no room for them to really move. And they do have 3-inch pieces of rail between each module, so if they do slide, there's a little bit of give. But none of my modules on this entire 157-foot run around the entire studio down here are, in fact, attached to the tabletops in any way, and they are not attached together. And so far, it's been working really well since 2002 when I started building this layout. One last question that I've gotten asked a lot was, how do you power the layout? And I simply run wires underneath the entire length of the layout, and I've got guitar jacks that plug in underneath. Now the problem with guitar jacks is, as you plug them in, if you've ever heard somebody plug in an amplifier, you get that bzzzt. That's a short. So if you've got your DCC system running and you unplug or plug in your modules, it's going to intermittently short out. So it may be best simply to turn off your system. So that's something I wanted to talk about tonight, and that was really easy. The only other 2 things on my list, and I'm going to get through this very quickly, is Deshler, Nebraska. We talked about it on last week's show.
Yeah.
Great, great group of people.
Right. Spring Creek Model Trains, great store. Man.
George,
I'll
you had something you wanted to talk about on that.
Well, I'll be at the show. I'm really excited to be out there at the Spring Creek Model Trains. I know last time I was there a couple years ago, it was very surprising how far in the middle of kind of nowhere, Nebraska they are, and how many people came out to the show. So I'm really excited to get out there again and to get out and not only support our retail partners that sell SoundTraxx products, but also just get out and meet the customers and meet people and you know, do more shows again. This is, as you said, we're getting closer to a normal. So that's exciting.
Deb and Dave Zucker are the proprietors that own that shop. They run a very tight ship. They've got more stock than I've ever seen in any hobby shop, and I'm sure I'm going to see more in my lifetime. I can't wait to get up to Lombard Hobbies. I need to make a road trip up there. I hear that's a very large store.
Call me when you go.
I want to announce that next week we are not going to do a show on the 17th. That's going to allow me to get the September What's Neat done, which needs to be done before we have the RPM meet here in St. Louis. So rather than do 5 shows this month in a row, which would be kind of difficult to do and still get everything else done for Model Railroad Hobbyist Magazine, on the 17th we will not be releasing a show. I might release a What's Neat video. I haven't decided yet, but if I do that, you'll know. Also, that RPM show here in St. Louis is in Collinsville, Illinois at the Gateway Center. That's the 30th and 31st. We look forward to meeting all of our friends out there. Stop by and say hi. I'm usually going 1,000 miles an hour in one direction. It's organized chaos because I need to get 7 or 8 interviews each day during that show, and it just takes time to get through that. We're also going to be handing out free hats that Denny Yelsma is sending us to give to various people.
Like this here?
So I don't know what they're exactly going to be, but I expect 2 boxes of hats to show up this week.
Okay.
Thank you, Denny Yelsma, for how you help us support the hobby. And that is everything on my list. So I'm going to go out to George Bogatiuk out in Durango. George, what do you got to talk about tonight?
Well, I'm really excited to be able to come visit you, the St. Louis RPM as well. So it's going to be an exciting road trip for me, being in Deschler, and then I'll work my way through the Kansas City area and Omaha during the week between, and finish up the week at St. Louis RPM. So I'm really excited about that.
Nice.
Very nice.
As far as SoundTraxx is concerned, we've been finally getting to ship a lot of product. I know we've teased the Next 18, which is good for a lot of the N-scale models, especially all the models Scale Trains makes. You can put and upgrade the sound with the Next 18 plug, just plug it right in. The HO scale SW1200 that Walthers makes, and then I believe the new one that Rapido's making also has that Next 18. So there's a lot of good models that will fit the Next 18 decoders. They're on the retailer shelves and at SoundTraxx.com as well. We've also started shipping the BH1, BH2 that we've talked about recently here on the show. The BH1 and BH2 are a Bachmann HO scale sound value drop-in replacement upgrade. So if you've bought one of the older entry-level sound systems that Bachmann makes called the Sound Value, this will be a wire-for-wire replacement, so you can upgrade it and get the Tsunami 2 Model Railroaders Reader's Choice Award winner for favorite sound decoder 2 years running.
I want to ask you about that.
So-
Do they send you a trophy or something? Do they send you a plaque? What do you get when you win that besides...
Well, you get to use the logo that's here in the background.
Okay.
This is, I'll be honest with you, this was a logo that we put together to show the 2 winners on top of each other. This was just a thing we made. It's a piece of paper glued to a piece of foam board just so I can have it in the background.
Boy.
But otherwise, we get to use it in advertising and so forth around on different platforms.
So they don't send you a hard
you know-
trophy, something to handle and pass around the office?
If they did, I haven't seen it.
Okay.
That doesn't
Maybe
mean
it's
they
in the
haven't.
mail.
Yeah.
I like James Wright when he gave us the People's Choice Awards in 2018 for the best video podcast in the world. Look at me, we're bragging, I'm tooting my horn, because it's something that you can hold and put in the studio, and it's a very beautiful thing. So thank you very much to all the folks that voted for the What's Neat This Week podcast. We really appreciate it. We work hard to bring to you every week new information and what's new in the hobby.
I do want to finish up real quick before. If you know, all these products are available at your local retailer, but if you want, you can purchase on SoundTraxx.com. And if your order total is $50 or more, enter the discount code Firebox.
Firebox.
And you will get Firebox, and you will get a free SoundTraxx gift. Could be anything. So let me just let you know, you may want to use this code.
A new car.
Well,
Okay, maybe not anything, but anything SoundTraxx makes.
maybe an autographed photo or something. That's what
Yeah.
it would be. Yeah, that's it.
There you go.
That's
So
awesome.
something from the SoundTraxx world will be included. So, and it can be anything. There's a whole wide range of different stuff, and they're in a box randomly, and our shipping clerk will grab them out randomly and throw them in your shipment. So
That's
Sure.
awesome.
Very
that's
nice.
one thing I'd want to make sure to remind everybody that code is good and in play.
Cool, and you're going to get me the new opening for the show, which the folks have probably already watched.
Yes, I'm going to be doing that probably here when we're done.
That's awesome. Steve Mantilla, you know, I love you and your father. You both get to model together. This is just like Austin Allard and his father. It's a son-father relationship, and you cherish that. How did you get involved in the hobby? What got you started into trains?
Just growing up with it. You know, you talked about earlier this little pad here. You know, when you talk about things of being around the train since almost mid-50s age here, that you've grown up with the blue Athearn boxes, and my dad always had the HO. These little pads were always in the room. As a little kid, you're always seeing them. And,
Right.
okay, Stephen, what did you do with it? That type of thing. So, you know, it's just been things, it's always been here, and now that you've gotten older and more looking for things to do and enjoy yourself together that way, you've come back to the aspect of having the trains and picking up pieces here and there and just watching his stuff run, and he comes over when I do some things for my trains, and it's just excitement and just something that we can do together. And that's what's always been the draw to it, is I've worked my life with him, and I get to do the stuff with trains back to realizing the things that really matter in the world,
That's
that
awesome.
type of thing. So
Now, you had a real train show. We announced it. I think that was in May, was
yes,
that right?
May 15th.
It
yes.
seems like already so long ago.
I know, isn't it?
That was like one of the first train shows really after COVID that occurred around here in our general area, would you say?
Pretty
Right.
close, yeah.
And you had a good turnout,
We had
over 200 people?
Almost 200 people there. We had a bus come from the local retirement community that my wife works at, so they came and they were able to look at stuff and buy a few things, and we were happy with that. And they were just excited to come and see it. But no, we had a good turnout, and we're getting stuff together to have some more shows in that because we just enjoyed it. It was the fact that everybody was happy when they came in and enjoyed themselves.
All right, drum roll for Michael Budde, because every time Mike shows up, you've got some amazing. Last week's auto racks absolutely blew people away.
Oh, yeah?
Fantastic. What have you got tonight on the table, Mike?
Well, a few weeks ago we were talking about buses, and Lauren James up at Otter Valley Models sent me some of the new, well, he sent me one Rapido bus. These two are ones I bought myself, but this is for the London, Ontario transit system, and I think that's an Otter Valley exclusive
Wow.
for the people in that area. And I've got these two St. Louis buses hooked up to a battery to show you how the headlights and taillights work, and the front wheels are steerable.
Now, is that factory lighting, or did you add that?
No, it's factory.
Is
They
that
come lighted.
right?
I think they come in lighted and unlighted versions, but the price difference isn't that much. So,
Wow.
and I made my own signs for the side, like radio stations, and cigarettes and alcohol were big advertisers on the buses back in the 70s. So I got that. And now, that other little bus down there, that's an old, I think APW, but it was a plastic manufacturer, and I got that at Tinkertown, and so it's been a long time. And I painted it myself. It was undecorated, so I painted
And
it.
that's in the St. Louis bi-state paint
Yes.
scheme, isn't it?
I did mine. I have some Bush buses that I did like that too, and I took old photographs. I made the decals and stuff, and then Rapido came out with these new ones. So now I have 4 St. Louis buses.
Very cool.
So, and then I've been working on that those flat cars, those 2 flat cars with the school bus noses, and here's what they would look like on a bus. So these are 2 Concours school buses that I took the International Harvester nose off and put my Chevy and GMC nose. The GMC nose was crafted by Joe Steinman. He did that GMC grill, so he did a nice job on that. Then the 2 passenger cars, those are, how do you say it, Bombardier? Bombardier?
Yes.
Prototypes, and they form pretty much the backbone of the VIA fleet in the Windsor to Quebec City corridor up there, which is runs along the St. Lawrence River, St. Lawrence Seaway, and that's where most of the rail travel is on that line. And those cars were, I forgot when they were built, but they were originally built as Talgo cars, where they would lean into the curves, but that feature was deactivated after a while, and they're still in use. There's all kinds of different paint schemes, and I was looking at Rapido's website, and they have a couple dozen different paint schemes, but this one in particular is pretty cool. It's the faded flag. The Canadian flag is on one, and then the, I guess there's a lot of them with the red faded off, and it's just a white patch. But these models are just spectacular. The end detail is just incredible, and the window tint is perfect. And the windows are flush fitting with gaskets on there, and the tint just looks just exactly like a real train. So hats off to Rapido, man. They're really coming out with some cool stuff. SW Switcher coming up soon,
Yes.
and those GM cars from the 80s.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
So
Thank you, Jason, and all the folks up in Canada. You've been making some magnificent stuff, and thank you for getting into the American market.
right.
We really
Right.
appreciate it, all modelers alike. I want to say that George Bogatiuk, I mentioned this on last week's show, helped me do the September? Let's say August. August What's Neat video. August. I just got it finished last night, did the final edit, got it uploaded. Joe Fugate is going to be happy, and so will Jeff Schultz. Very happy that I got that to them. George, thank you for doing the history and how you build Civil War locomotives. The 440s are absolutely magnificent in that video. George did a 38-minute video, and it's all on him. He edited everything. Good job on that, George.
Well, thank you. I had a lot of fun doing it, but really wanted to just share it. I had so much fun building that locomotive and doing the research and everything. And that Bachmann 440 is so versatile. You can do so much with it. And knowing the locomotives of the era, there were so many different variations, and that model makes a great starting point for modeling a lot of the 440 standard locomotives of the time that didn't look traditional. So you can do all kinds of cool stuff and barely notice that there's a Bachmann model underneath everything. So was really excited to share that. So thanks for letting me.
Good job on that. With that, folks, we're going to see you all in 2 weeks when we shoot the next show, and then it's the RPM meet where we're going to have a lot of folks here in the studio after the show to shoot that show. Steve Mantilla, Mike Budde, thank you for being here. George Bogatiuk, Bob Russick, thank you very much for running camera for us tonight. Now we're going to take our wonderful NCE power system, the power cab, the hammerhead that you see here, and we're going to run some trains, because you know why I like the system? It simply does what it's supposed to do. It works. Every time you pick it up, it does what it's supposed to do. So rock and roll. Thank you, NCE, for helping us promote the best hobby in the world. And so with that, folks, let's run some trains. All right. Okay, we're going to do a thumbnail shot. I loved last week's thumbnail shot. Let's do something. What are we going to do? Just, I'm going to hold up a breaker bar, and I'm going to be smiling. All right. And you can hold up a model or whatever you want to do. Just wave and smile. Let's all do it at the same time. You ready? George, where are you at? Yeah, you ready? Here we go. Smile. Okay, that's our thumbnail shot. Okay, I'm going to kill screen capture first. I hope screen capture worked tonight. Pray. Stop recording. Because last week it didn't, and we had, or 2 weeks ago it didn't. Look, it worked. Okay, I'm killing sound next.